Good morning. Today, while I'm harvesting for the morning, I just want to give you a quick tour of my garden because it's going well and it's looking its best right now before the August heat. So I just want to show you around, kind of talk through what's going well, what's going not so well. Mostly for my own bookkeeping so that I know next year when I'm planning what went well. And some of you might find it helpful. But before we get picking, I want to talk through the pumpkins because this is the first year I'm actually getting some nice ones. So over the winter I made some pits, and in those pits I put lots and lots of chicken poop, and I was hoping, oops, that's the sun. I was hoping that would mean that because they are heavy feeders, that they would do well. Well, my problem now is the sun. They do like sun, but because the sun is so harsh here they just have sun all day. I have one beautiful pumpkin, and another one that just got pollinated and will hopefully grow into a good sized pumpkin. But because that area has sun all day, I think that's still part of why they're struggling, because the area over here where we have lots of shade throughout the morning and early afternoon, they're doing much better. But over here I didn't make any pits, I just made mounds with goat poop, so they're both poop heavy. They're growing in basically just poop, composting, manure. But here it's goat and over there it's chicken. So there's a little bit of a difference here. Here, as I said, they have much more shade and they're much happier. You can also see that once they start going into the areas that have more sun over the day, the leaves just get kind of crispy, and yeah, they're just not very happy. So from which I've learned that heavy shaded areas is where I'm gonna grow pumpkins. I'm gonna make some more pits, fill them with manure, and then hopefully next year I will be swimming in pumpkins. But I want to keep trying because pumpkins can be a really good storage crop, and I don't do a lot of canning because I just don't have the room to store it. I just don't have the space to have lots of canning projects going. Plus you can't really get any pressure canners and suitable jars here in Europe. So those are all reasons that I want to focus on storage crops and crops that store easily without any extra work from me. So pumpkins is one way to do that. So I want to keep trying to get them going. Over here I also have 3 varieties. I will put the names of them on the screen so you can write them down if you want them. But especially the Trombosino, I'm very much amazed at how many starts it puts out. It does really well, but only one pumpkin has developed properly so far, but it's a really nice looking pumpkin, and from what I've read they should store for a good couple months. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep trying to grow these varieties, but just with some different places to grow them. First I want to take out the beets that I sowed in January. They're not looking super nice, honestly. The problem here was that I only put compost with them, and as I've learned now, that compost was just absolutely not shit. It was just not good compost. So lots of them have stayed small. These are I think the Detroit variety. So they're nice and round, but they're just not a good size. which is a shame, but I'm gonna roast these in the afternoon and pickle them anyway.
Hey, deze is zo vast.
So for how long they've been growing? Since January, early February, I think. I don't know. They should have been done a long time ago, and they should be much bigger. But shitty compost makes for shitty beets and crops in general. So these are really minuscule. That's a really nice one now. So I will come back to this later, but this is one thing that annoys me about the no-dig cult. I'm just gonna call it that, because they always say, oh, just put compost down and you're gonna grow amazing things. That's not always the case, because you need actually good compost to do that. And it's not always possible to find good compost. So I did work this final bed really late in the season. I put in some sunflowers and some watermelons. And yeah, I because it was so late in the season, I don't really expect a lot from them. The plants are still kind of small, but they are putting out a watermelon here and there. Ja, laat maar even hangen, schat. Je moet nog even groeien. And these beans that I planted, these are green beans. They should still produce a little bit. But crops definitely need some time to establish, and so if you plant them really late, here, I should listen to myself. I talked about this in the video that I'll link here. It's just too late, they won't get established. It's too hot for them, and then it's kind of a waste of time and energy. But I did it, and they're still coming a little bit off it, so it's okay. So this year I planted a new green bean variety that I just bought on a whim. I bought a really big pack of seeds, and they're doing really well. They're called French Navy. But by now it really gets too hot here for them, and some of them did get a little bit of red spider mite, so they're stunted, but yeah, they're also just getting crispy from the sun. But I planted a lot because last year, because of the early heat, the red spider mite got to the green beans very early, and I almost had no green beans, which sucked because I love green beans. So this year I was swimming in them again because I planted a lot of plants. Green beans is one of those things I'd love to grow more of, but preserving them is not really possible for me right now. Unlike many people, we do not have a freezer, so I cannot put them away like that. Pressure canning is also not usual here in Europe, and while I could get one, getting all the right lids is not as easy as in the US. So I'm still debating if it is worth the investment in the long term. Since botulism is a concern with green beans, I prefer to not just water bath can them. So we just enjoy them for the weeks they are in season, and I buy some cans in the winter when I want to.
Maak nog deze dikke pukken.
Ja?
Papa's. Kijk eens hoe groot die is.
My tomatoes are doing really well this year. They haven't really minded the odd colder spring that we had. There's so many carpenter bees right now. I love it. They're really big black ones. They love all the flowers that I've planted. Yeah. Anyway, the tomatoes. So every year I try, this is my 5th year gardening in general, but also 5th year gardening here on this plot. And every year I've tried to stick with some varieties I loved and try a couple new varieties. So the 2 varieties that I planted this year that are always a winner for me. Die is een beetje te klein, Puk. The Fiorentino, which is a beautiful tomato, never let me down on germination. Just grows. 10 out of 10 would recommend. The flavor is really good. It looks nice. A good, for my garden, a good tomato. The other one I'm growing again this year is the Jaune Flamme, which is an orange tomato from France. It didn't do well for me last year, but because I love the flavor so much, I just grew them again. Oh, it's getting too hot, okay. Because I love the flavor of the Jaune Flamme so much, I tried them again. And they're doing well this year, so I'm really excited about that. They do get sunburned a little bit more easily. So that's not great, but they're doing good so far. I have to put you in the shade. Ja, plak maar die kleine. So, the Jaune Flamme, Fiorentino, both 10 out of 10. Would recommend. They grow well. They taste good. And then a new variety I am growing this year is the green Cherokee pear. I hope I remember that correctly. The size is a little bit smaller than I had expected. This is about as big as they get. The taste, I haven't tasted one that I love a lot, but I think we just have to wait until they're a little bit more ripe. But they look fun and they germinated pretty well for me, so I might try them again. I'd really encourage every gardener to plant lots of flowers in between their vegetables. Not only are they great for attracting pollinators, they also add so much beauty to the space that I just want to be here more. I'm just gonna hope and pray that everything is in a proper frame. The green bean variety that I planted was a bush variety. But this one decided that it was a climbing variety, and the bean looks a little bit different as well, so maybe it's just a little bit of a mix-up in the seed. But it's climbing up this sunflower that I planted close to it, and it's also starting to pull down the sunflower. But yeah, I just let it go to do what it wanted. In case you're wondering, why are you leaving all these ugly done-for sunflower heads? I just leave them for the birds because I've seen lots of tiny birds just sit on the flower and pick out the seeds. And yeah, just doing some community service in that sense of putting some feed out for them without actually putting some feed out for them. So I don't mind, and I think it's good that they have something to eat as well. And the bees still use the sunflowers as well. I planted a lot of sunflowers this year. Well, not that many, but they grew very well, so they're in the way of a lot of shots, a lot of frames. I planted a mix of, I think it was called something like autumn colors, and so far only also more yellow ones with a really dark inner circle seed head have come up. Because I think all the red ones were self-seeded or from an old packet of red velvet queen that I had. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence, but I love sunflowers because it's just really so impressive. And the tallest one I grew this year is the tallest one I've ever grown. It's back here. We measured it the other day. Where is it? Is it even in the frame? All the way up there. 3 meters 20. 3 meters 20, which is a whopping 30 centimeters taller than the tallest one I grew 2 years ago, which was 280. So really exciting. It makes me feel really proud, even though I just did the planting. So I am now on the Armenian cucumber train. I'm trying to spread the gospel of the Armenian cucumber. They're so good and they grow so well in our climate. It gets really hot here, as you know. Our climate is semi-arid, so it also gets really dry. We haven't had rain in weeks, which makes it really challenging to grow normal cucumbers. I've tried over the years. They always go bitter very quickly, so they just don't have time to grow properly and get a good harvest out of them. Armenian cucumbers are technically a melon, and they don't have that issue at all. They don't get a tough skin like a lot of cucumbers do. But they still taste like a cucumber. They may be slightly sweet. They have a really thin skin, so you don't even have to peel them if that's something that you don't like about normal cucumbers. So they don't go bitter because they're technically a melon. They did get some spots. I think they're sunburned a little bit, which is interesting because they do keep putting out cucumbers. And it's just like, some of them look a little bit weird because I don't know what's up with the pollination. Or maybe I'm just not harvesting them on time. But I also have some really nice looking ones. I had one this big, which fed us for 2 days. So I am now on the Armenian cucumber train. Highly recommend if you struggle growing cucumbers like I do. Yeah, you can just put them, if you like doing Greek salads in the summer. I was never able to grow cucumbers to actually make a Greek salad with tomatoes and cucumbers. I can now do that because I have lots and lots of cucumbers. But one note to self, I should plant them quite late because the ones that I planted early, they're done for now, and they struggled because it was just not hot enough for them. This one basically looks like an English cucumber, just a little bit lighter, but this is basically an English cucumber. So highly recommend. Okay, just a quick round of things. For courgettes. Courgettes are almost done. I planted 2 varieties. These Tondo, which is a round courgette. I always have one plant somehow that grows absolutely crazy. That was this plant. Picked so many courgettes from them. That one is a little bit done for now because it's getting too hot. And the other, this is a multi-pick yellow summer squash. I'm not sure how I feel about them. But those are kind of done for now. My spur of the moment plant is Pirella, because I've never grown that and I wanted to try. I'm not sure if I like the flavor. As you can see, I haven't used it much. It grows really tall, it goes really nicely, but it did get a little bit of red spider mites. I have to try some recipes with Pirella, so if you have any good ones, send them to me. Type them out in the comments. Flowers. Zinnias, always. Orange and yellow cosmos. Some borage still, which is, I planted this literally 5 years ago and I never planted it again. So my marigolds are not flowering. I don't understand why, but they're not flowering yet. Putting on lots of leaves though. This is my Cape gooseberry that came back from last year, but it's infested with red spider mites. It's really hard. I should spray something on it, but when it comes to spraying things, I'm always very, very hesitant because nothing just kills the one thing that you want it to kill. So if I spray something on it, it will always also affect the bees that I have buzzing around here. And then here in the final row, I have a few aubergines. They're doing pretty well this year. So far they've had some good time to get established. Lots of flowers on them, and they're starting to put out the first aubergines. I love this variety. It's an Asian variety. It did pretty well for me last year, so I just planted them again. There's some, the plant doesn't look good, but it's putting out lots of aubergines. And I think the last one there is a black beauty, but I'm not sure. My one padron pepper plant that's actually doing something. And then over here, my chaos tomatoes, I call them. These are just plants that just got a late start. They decided to come up 6 weeks later from when I seeded them. So I didn't really have a plan for them otherwise and just planted them. And then of course, by that time I had no motivation anymore to build any trellising for them. So I just let them go. These are 2 cherry tomato varieties, a Jean Flamme. I think there is a Cherokee green pear. But as you can see, they're fine. They don't look pretty. Some of the tomatoes don't come out very nice, but they still produce a lot of tomatoes. So this is my laziness or my lack of motivation at the end of planting season. But it's also to show you that you can just let them go. You don't have to trellis them, at least in a drier climate like mine. I'm sure it will be different if you have lots of rain. They'll get blight if they're just flopping on the ground. But you don't always have to trellis and make everything look pretty, because the plants don't always need it. They don't mind. They'll still make lots of tomatoes for you, especially this one variety. It's more of a bush cherry tomato. It kind of thrives by neglect. This one is doing better than the other one I tried to support. So that's good. It just makes it a little bit more challenging to harvest. So Rue Apron sent me this apron earlier this year. I'm not sure if I love it, if it actually is as handy as they say, but I'm using it and I have to remember to put it on, because otherwise I'm still putting things in my skirt. Yeah. I will let you know if I have a final decision on if this is a handy thing to buy for gardeners. I know some people love it. So, thank you for watching this slightly incomplete tour of my 2024 garden. I hope it was at least a little bit helpful. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one.